All right, so let's start by kind of orienting you to, first of all, where we're at in relation to downtown Durango, and then where we're at in relation to a lot of other areas and amenities that are in this southern area. So most of this is just homes, acreage lots, but there are a few amenities. So like I mentioned earlier, you've got Pastorus Reservoir right here. And so what we're gonna do is, as a reference point, when I say we're 10 minutes or X amount of time from a certain amenity, we're gonna use Pastorus Reservoir as our reference point for this southern area, because of course it's a really big area. So we're gonna start here and say we're about 18 minutes from downtown Durango. For downtown, I'm using the Strater Hotel as a reference point in downtown. And then you'll look down at my notes, we've got Taco Boy and Home Slice. So taco shop, basically, really good spot, as well as Home Slice, which are both located in the Three Springs subdivision. They are only about 11 minutes away from us. Then the hospital is right there as well, which is in Three Springs. Then Home Slice, this area, Three Springs, backs up to a bunch of different amazing biking and hiking trails. They're really extensive, so I'm not going to give you an amount as far as like mileage that you can bike, because there's so many different trails that connect onto other systems, like Horse Gold's trail system that you can get to from in town Durango. So what I will say about that trail system, if you haven't heard me discuss this before, is there's a spurline trail system, and connected to that is a little trail system that's great for kids. There's not many trail systems in here that's great for much younger kids, 4 or 5 years old, that are learning to bike. So that trail system, little, I want to say a 3-mile or 2-mile loop, really great for kids in there. So again, you're only 11 minutes, again, from here, from Pastorus Reservoir. Then you've got Elmer's Corner. They have some really good take and bake pizzas. Then you've got Upper East Side. They have a great alcohol selection there. They're right next to them. And that's kind of on the corner as you're going into town. So they're about, I don't have it written down, but they're a little bit less, about 8 minutes away from here, from Pastorus Reservoir. And then you've got Roadhouse Pizza Company. So they're kind of this hole in the wall little spot, little convenience store on the side of the road, but some really good pizza, really good burritos, really highly rated on Google as well. And then again, the airport, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, the airport about 11 minutes away from here, again at Pastorus Reservoir. So this spot is fairly central. Obviously, as you get further away from down towards the airport, further from the airport, you can get, just a little further from downtown Durango. Home prices do continue to kind of go down as you get further away from Durango and as you get into this southern part of Durango. So I will pull up some stats, compare those numbers in a minute here, but just want to tell you a little bit more about the topography and what this feels like. Overall, it's a lot greener, but I compare it a lot of the times to areas like New Mexico, Farmington, even Santa Fe. It has a little bit of that feel where it's a little bit more desertous. You'll see a lot more pinon trees, things like that, but then there's a lot of farmland out here as well. Overall, just think of this as much flatter than any other part of Durango. As you go east, you climb in elevation quite a bit. As you go west, you climb in elevation, just gets a lot more hilly there. As you go north, it can be pretty flat in the Animas Valley, but very green, ridges on both sides of you. And as you go further north into that mountain area, you're getting, of course, a lot more mountains and a lot more snow up that way as well. So just overall down here, you do have some water. You've got the Florida River running through here, as well as the Animas River running through this south area. So there are some awesome homes on water, as well as some homes on some ponds as well, because they have those irrigation rights from some of those rivers flowing through this southern area. So although in the footage you're seeing, this area feels a little bit more dry, a little bit flatter, you might not expect to see as much water, you will see some subdivisions with some awesome water rights, as well as awesome, ponds and river access. By the way, as much as I love shooting these videos, I even love helping you more with your real estate needs. So if you're even thinking about moving to Southwest Colorado or Durango, give me a call or an email. Love to discuss exactly what you're looking for and hopefully point you in the right direction regarding the area that maybe you're looking for. And happy to hop on a Zoom call as well to do that. Pull up Google Earth. We can look around, kind of show you topography, show you the areas much more in depth, as well as get the drone in the air, give you a property tour or area tour. Let's dive back into the video. All right, so just to kind of recap recap that our first con on the list is really that it feels a little bit more like New Mexico. It doesn't quite feel like Colorado. When I have clients calling me up, they say, no, we don't really want the southern area. We want to feel like we're in the mountains. You don't necessarily feel that out here. So just to recap, really that's our first con, is that it just doesn't feel quite like Colorado out here. Although we're going to get into the pros of how it does feel like Colorado a little bit later, because it can be a little bit deceiving. If you just look at some footage, it doesn't have that mountain feel, but we'll get into more of the nuance of that later. So the second con is going to be no public river access. So most of the homes, either it's a subdivision that's on a river like the Animas River, where that subdivision has access to the river, or homes specifically have access to either the Animas River or the Florida River, or they have specific access to ponds like I mentioned. Later in this video, or just in a minute, I'm going to discuss specific subdivisions that are all on water. So we'll give you some of those. When I discuss those, I'm going to go into not as much detail because I have planned another video where I'm going to tour those subdivisions specifically and go way more into detail on those, but this video is more about the pros and cons. So let's actually just dive into that now. As you know, the one public access is Lake Pastoris, or Pastoris Reservoir, that we're on right now. We were just paddleboarding on this the other day. It is a lot of fun. I really like it out here. Really amazing sunsets too, which I'm skipping to another point, but from this lake you have some really amazing sunsets. So let's jump into some of these neighborhoods with access to either ponds or rivers. So the first one is going to be the Meadows. They're kind of is a caveat there. They don't actually have straight access, but they back up to Lake Pastoris Reservoir here. So they're right over my shoulder, if you will. And there is one home that has direct access where they can access it from their home. Otherwise, you really can't access it from that neighborhood. But I want to bring up that neighborhood because you just drive around the corner and you're here. It's a really easy access from the Meadows. What I love about that subdivision, all approximately 3-acre lots, really nice, well-kept neighborhood. They have great water rights throughout that subdivision. They have canals going throughout. And what's really nice about that subdivision is they've got walking trails throughout the subdivision, not just the dirt roads that you have there. Fairly flat land, kind of rolling hills, if you will, and some great views because they're slightly closer to town from there. And then you got Forkhorn Mesa. I really enjoyed touring this subdivision. I did do a tour on this subdivision, like I mentioned earlier. We'll throw up that video or a screenshot of that video here. But what I love about this subdivision is, again, it has a private pond kind of right in the middle of the subdivision. Good sized pond where you can paddleboard around on, you can fish in there, a little bit further away from town for sure. And in that video, I get into a lot more details on that. Then you've got El Rancho, Florida. And what I love about this subdivision is as you cross over the bridge, you're crossing over the Florida River, which you have access to, a little bit of access, not much. And then you cross and then you pass a pond on your right-hand side. The pond has a nice little pavilion, covered area to eat, picnic tables, little beach. It's a really nice little pond in this subdivision. Now the next subdivision is gonna be Adobe Cliffs. What I like about this one in particular is the river's running right behind some of these properties. Now, not all of these properties, so keep that in mind. Some of these properties are not on it and you really can barely or not at all hear the river from some of these homes. Feels a lot more like New Mexico. If you've been to Santa Fe or just kind of understanding what Santa Fe and some of this New Mexico terrain is like, it feels a lot more like that. A lot more pinon trees, not a lot of big shade trees. So you kind of want to take that into account when you're factoring out, like, do I really like this area? Home prices quite a bit higher. Just showed one in the $1.5 million range. Then there's some up to that $2 and $3 million range. Of course, those homes that are on the river are going to be higher in there. So again, a lot more dirt, a lot drier, but it does have the river going right by you. You're within that, let's say 20 to 25 minute range of downtown Durango there. And then we're going to step down about 27 minutes away, still right on the west side of the river, to a subdivision called the Animas River Ranch. So this subdivision only has a few homes in it. All these homes are right on the river, and again, they're kind of perched up over the river, but they have a nice little way to get down to the river from the home. They're not really high up, and I really like this subdivision because, again, really flat land. It's a lot greener here, but it feels a lot more like maybe kind of like farmland. It's just very flat out in this area in general. Again, not a lot of trees, but there's some more cottonwood trees. So you do have some mature trees in this area because these homes are a little bit older, and you know, it's just a straight great road out there. To discuss a little bit about the weather, you're getting quite a bit less snow, not necessarily less snow than in town Durango, but less than most other areas of Durango because your elevation is starting to go down a little bit as you come south of town. So both of these subdivisions I just mentioned, most of these really, are getting less snow than most areas of Durango. Then the next one is Florida River Ranch. So this is one of the really cool subdivisions that's right on the Florida River, or some of these properties are on the Florida River. It's kind of flowing through this little valley, if you will, and it's really unknown. So it's off of Highway 550. You really don't hear much traffic because these are all pretty big acreage lots, and it kind of dips down. So you're kind of below the traffic, if you will, here. Really pretty topography because it's kind of these rolling hills, if you will, in this area, but you're kind of in this valley. And so some of these homes are looking out over the valley, looking down at the river. You don't hear the river really well because it's a fairly small stream coming through here, but really pretty in the winter and in the summer because when it's green, it's just really pretty throughout here. Still has a little bit of that New Mexico feel. A lot of big trees. You're not going to have your forest here. You're not going to have a lot of pine trees here. So it's very different though. It's not like a lot of these other subdivisions that I just discussed where they're really flat and just, again, like most areas of New Mexico, where this is really having the river running right through it. A lot greener, a lot prettier in some ways. If you don't want to be that close to the highway, you are close though. It does vary though, because as you get into this subdivision further, you're a little bit more away from the road, and that's not as big of a concern. I just showed a property in here that I believe is priced around 1.5 million, and it's quite a bit of acreage. So they were originally selling just the land, and then they also are selling several homes with it now. Really cool homes as well as the land, just way different topography. And you could always add, obviously you got to get permission, go through the county. So you could always add a guest home, add a shop, add things like that to this kind of property as well. All right, so we went over some subdivisions that are on water. There's quite a few different subdivisions that are on water, although I will say there's not many homes in all of these subdivisions, so you might find 1 or 2 homes on the market at any time in all of these subdivisions combined. All right, so let's go into the next con, which might be a little controversial. I think maybe half of you are gonna say this is a con and half of you are looking for this type of land. So it's really that not many homes in this entire southern area, with some exceptions, aren't very close together. And so I have some clients that are saying, hey, we want homes that are fairly close together, maybe 1 acre or less. And there's not a whole lot of that where it's under 1 acre, under half an acre lots out here. So let's dive into some details on that. Out of 81 homes sold, there were 71 that had 1 acre or more. So almost all of them had over an acre. 65 had 3 acres or more, 31 had 5 acres or more, and then 20 had 10 acres or more out in this area. So I know that's not a con for everyone. Some of you are like, that's awesome, let's put this area on our list. But just to make you aware of those specifics, then let's discuss some other stats here. So the average sold home price out here was $826,285, and then the median was $775. Highest home sold in the last 12 months was $1.595 million, and then over the last 3 years was just over $3 million out here. Then to discuss a little bit more about just the acreage out here, there are a few subdivisions that are going in that have smaller lots. So don't necessarily take the south area off of your list entirely. There are some smaller subdivisions that are coming in close to the Three Springs area. And then I'm trying to think if there's much, there's really not a whole lot more that are smaller lots, but there are a few. Like I mentioned, in the last year, there were 10 homes sold that were under an acre. So let me know specifically if that's what you're looking for and you like to be out in this area. As you get further south or closer to Bayfield, if that's on your list, there are definitely homes out that way that drop in price quite a bit as well. So that might be kind of your honorable mention area you might want to consider as well. If you're kind of liking this topography, you're open to being out this direction, might be worth putting the Bayfield area on your list. All right, so the next con is something I already discussed earlier, is just a lack of amenities. Now we did discuss some of the amenities we do have. Home Slice Pizza, really good pizza spot, Taco Boy. We've got some great trails. So I did hit on some of those great amenities that we do have. But as you get further south, you just don't have some of those same amenities that a lot of other areas of in town Durango, just in in Durango in general and some of those other quadrants have. So just wanted to really highlight just kind of the lack of amenities out here. Again, that kind of comes with having acreage property, just being further away from town. Of course, if that's something you're looking for, then you're probably saying, again, that's not a con. I'm really enjoying that. I'm good with that. So that might be a positive for you. Again, reach out and let me know if that is a positive for you. And I'm happy to discuss more details about how far away specific things are that maybe you're looking for. Now, the next item on the list is that there's not really any trails, hiking or biking trails in this southern area of Durango. I'll give you a few caveats. If you are a trail runner or like to run on the road, there's some awesome roads to run on or bike on, like gravel biking or just biking in general, where they're dirt roads that are kind of rolling hills. So like County Road 301, even County Road 311, all those county roads in between are all dirt roads, or the majority are dirt roads, I should say. And I personally really like County Road 311. It's kind of got these rolling hills to it. And so as a distance runner, I really like those. Not many cars on them, dirt road, nice and wide, and you can run quick on those. So, there's some caveats to that. There's some areas to run and bike, but really no trails. So my parents actually live just south of the Three Springs area, and they're just across the street from all of those trails. So those are going to be your closest trail systems, all those trail systems near Three Springs. If you look on the hiking project or MTB project, those are going to have all those trail systems on there. They're going to be in green, blue, and have a few blacks in there, I believe, as well. Mostly green and blue. So some great trails. I definitely recommend checking those out and keeping those in mind. Did have a client ask me the other day if he can use an e-bike on those, and you cannot use an e-bike on those trails, unfortunately. You can on the Animas River Trail and on some others, like the Hermosa Creek Trail up north of town, but not on those. And then there are some trails out in Bayfield, so if you end up buying closer to the airport or just closer to Bayfield, there are some great trails out that way as well. But overall, that really is going to be the con. There are some great dirt roads, so let me know if you're a distance runner, if you're a mountain biker, and you're looking for some specifics. Again, let me know, and I'm happy to discuss those in more details. All right, so now let's discuss some of the pros. So the first pro is going to be really that you have those homes on Riverfront. You have some Riverfront and Waterfront homes. So I already discussed that, but compared to a lot of other areas of Durango, I really want to rank that as a pro because there's not many other areas. There's the Animas Valley for sure, but in the east area, there's some great sections of some great homes on rivers, but the con there is as you go east of town, you climb in elevation quite a bit, so you get a lot more snow out in that area, and you're a lot more forested. So although you're a lot more open out here with a lot more sun hitting your home, you're not nearly as forested in the sense of you still get some views out here, and you're not just almost claustrophobic is a word that some clients have used, and just tucked in to where you have zero views at all. You can see, 50 feet around you and that's it. So the difference there is I think there's a lot more variety of homes on rivers, on the Animas River, on the Florida, out this direction as well. So I'm gonna put that up as a con. I know we already discussed specifics on some of those subdivisions, but just wanna put that as the first pro out here, again, and specifically in comparison to other areas of Durango. Now, if we compare to the Animas Valley, phenomenal homes right on the Animas River, but price points quite a bit higher as well. Like there's one right now, I believe, for $5 million. There's one upwards of $10 million. So those prices do tick up quite a bit as you get out into the Animas Valley. As you go west of town, really not a whole lot that is on water. There are a few homes that are out on ponds over on Shenandoah as you go west on County Road 141, also known as Wildcat Canyon. But as a whole, as you go west, there's not a whole lot out there that's on water. And then as we take you back going towards Bayfield, there's some stuff out that way as well. Now, the next pro of living in this south area is going to be the home prices. Home prices are quite a bit lower than the rest of Durango, especially as you continue to go out towards the airport, like I mentioned earlier. Let's give you some comparisons though. I went over the median home price at $775 for the last year. Let's compare that to the north area of Durango, the Animas Valley. So the median home price in the Animas Valley is $1.25 million. And again, I'm pulling stats from the last 12 months from shooting this video. And then the average home price in the Animas Valley is $1.523 million. So again, the average sold home in this area, in the southern area, is $826,000. Huge difference. Big difference from the west and the east area as you go up towards Vallecito and that area as well. Now, what you'll see when you see prices that are quite a bit lower in areas like the Animas Valley or going towards the lake area, I shouldn't say be something wrong with it, but maybe something funky. Maybe there's a steep driveway. I always like to touch on these in these videos when I can. Either a steep driveway Valley. Makes it a lot tougher to get up there in the winter, especially when you've got snow, and that can hurt the value. There might be a cistern where you're hauling in water, and so there's not a well, basically a holding tank for the water, and then it gets pumped up into the home. Those are a few of the main things. The other thing it could have an easement going through the property where it makes it less valuable. So a few other things that are just kind of caveats to some of those home prices where you might see lower home prices in some of these other areas, but there's always a reason. So again, reach out to me. I'm happy to dig into that, get you a property tour so that you have an understanding of what some of these look like that you're really liking and you're seeing popping up on your feed. All right, the next pro is going to be the sunsets, and that you just have a lot bigger skies out here because again, a lot more land, a lot flatter land, and a lot less trees all around your property. So where I live in the Animas Valley, there's a lot of trees all around our property, cottonwoods, aspens, and so it's really pretty. We have views of Missionary Ridge across from us, but the sun comes up over that ridge and then it sets down over the other ridge on the other side of us. So you just don't have these big open skies out in the Animas Valley like you do here in the southern area of Durango. Then you go east of Durango. Again, I like to do these comparisons. You go east of Durango, and like I mentioned just a minute ago, you're fairly tucked in. You've got a lot of pine trees all around you. A good example would be Edgemont. If you're looking at buying in Edgemont, you know, it's still a phenomenal neighborhood. I love selling homes in that neighborhood, working with clients buying in that neighborhood, but just so that you can see the difference is you don't have those big skies there. You've got a lot of pine trees all around you, and just a nuance on that neighborhood and this area in specifically is you want to be cognizant of those trees growing and blocking the sun from your home. Just something I was discussing with a client just this morning. And so you just want to be very careful of, is the sun going to block my home so much that I wish that I had a different slot, different home, I want to cut down trees, things like that. So out here, you're really not having that concern. You do get a lot of sun, so you might want to be planting trees out here, but I've looked into it, and you know, having the right, a little bit of money put into landscape, put into some big trees around your home does go a long way. So sunsets are just phenomenal out here. I love running out here, like I mentioned, on County Road 311, seeing the sunset while I'm running. Perfect temperature too. It's in the 70s in the middle of the summer or even lower. So I love that. I love the sunsets, and the sunrises just as equally out here are phenomenal. Now the next pro is the southern area of Durango gets the least amount of snow out of any area in Durango. So downtown Durango gets fairly similar, but you still get less out this way for the most part. Obviously it depends on the storm itself, but as a whole, you get less snow out here. The other thing about the snow out here is you pretty much have flat driveways out here, although you do have longer driveways. So two things to factor in. Some areas of Durango have steeper driveways, and maybe they get similar amount of snow, depending if you're in the Animas Valley, in town Durango, you're still at lower elevation, you might have a steeper driveway, similar amount of snow. Out here, you're getting longer driveways, but flatter. So weigh that out. You're gonna wanna have a snowblower or a snowplow or an ATV with a plow in the end if you have that longer driveway. So make sure to factor that in. Even though you're not getting as much snow, you're still gonna wanna have that snowplow. So just something to factor. Then I almost forgot to mention that you definitely can hire somebody to plow your driveway out here. My parents had that done, so they have a long driveway, but then my dad would just use a snowplow to hit his paved area, which is the 3-car garage. You just hit the paved area and then have somebody come by, maybe once a month, once every couple months, just depending on how much snow we got. So it's not like you need them to hit your driveway right away, because if you're not getting a foot and a half of snow, which in this southern area, we don't often get a ton of snow at one time, it's not like you need to be paying a ton of money to get your driveway plowed all the time. So with that, they're roughly charging, actually I shouldn't say specific numbers because it always varies based on the size of the driveway, but I know they're somewhere around 150 to 200 bucks for my parents' driveway, which they're on 3 acres and it's not a long driveway, just to give you kind of a comparison there. All right, so let's do the pro number 5. So the 5th pro is really the proximity to the airport as well as the hospital and some of the other items, just having some other amenities out this way compared to just being completely remote and really far from anything like some other towns that we have east and west of us. So I actually just did a video called Frequently Asked Questions Part 2, and in that video I went down a list and compared the majority of the mountain towns in Colorado and showed their proximity to airports and showed their proximity to hospitals. Really, we're near the top of the list as far as proximity to those amenities from downtown Durango. So in this southern area, you're really closer to both of those than most parts of Durango. So it's really going to be the fifth pro. And then I also want to kind of recap some of what we went over. So as a whole, for myself personally, the reason I would really enjoy living in this area is the acreage, the ability to have a good amount of acreage. Also, most parts, let's call it half of this southern area, you're able to have a pond, just have some water features, have a really nice green yard because of the irrigation rights coming through here. Also, I really like those sunsets and sunrises out here, having the ability to just have these nice big open skies, see the sky out here, and then that access to those biking trails at Three Springs. Those biking trails are really phenomenal. Granted, they're not right out your back door, but I personally really love the gravel and dirt roads out here to be able to run on and just have long roads to run on and not having to be stopping at stoplights, stop signs, waiting for traffic. You just have these long, nice rolling hills, dirt roads out here as well. Then I love just the peace and quiet out here. Regarding, the peace and quiet and the lack of it as you get closer into town, you've got Highway 550 and Highway 160 going through town, or just through different parts of town. Your west area, your east area, a lot of homes are on those major highways. And of course out here it's just a lot of county roads. You've just got the traffic of people going to their homes, so there's just not much traffic out here. Granted, you do have the airport, so you've got those planes flying over in that area. But besides that, you don't have much, and it's not like this is a major airport, so you don't have a lot of traffic out here. Then the other thing is the home price is quite a bit lower out here, and you still have, as you can see over my shoulder, some really beautiful homes out here, really nice custom builds out here as well. So you're not sacrificing the quality of build out here. So again, acreage, the lower home prices, you get those sunsets and sunrises out here, and you're still not far from town. At Lake Pastoris, I believe I mentioned, you're about 18 minutes from downtown Durango. So yes, if you want to be quite a bit closer, it's a little trickier. However, there are some areas where, like off of Highway 550, County Road 301 to be specific, you're quite a bit closer to downtown Durango, and you do still have some great views of the La Plata Mountains. If you want to be tucked in the mountains, kind of like in town Durango or in the Animas Valley, you don't quite get that. It is flatter out here, so you're not in the mountains. You don't have insane views. If you want these just next level views, you don't have those out here. So if we're looking at cons again, you don't have those crazy good views out here, but you do have some really good, amazing mountain views as you get closer to Highway 550. Again, County Road 301, 302, kind of that area. And then if you want to get away from HOAs, there's a lot less HOAs out here, a lot more just county road, county living, where you can have horses, chickens, goats, pigs, whatever you want out here. For the most part, it's pretty doable to do. Get a lot of clients reaching out about just getting away from HOAs, so that is very doable out here. There are still some HOAs as well. If you really want that kind of regulation and want to make sure your neighbor doesn't have a bunch of cars parked outside or whatnot, you're going to be safe. There's definitely some great HOAs in this area as well. I did want to caveat and mention, like I mentioned earlier about traffic on those busier roads on Highway 160, I am really looking at this south area as just being south of 160. So there are several different subdivisions that are just south of Highway 160 that are going to be a little tricky in the sense of you're going to have some traffic noise, but there is generally a good buffer of trees between you and the road. My parents live fairly close to Highway 160, and they do hear the traffic, but there's also a good buffer of trees between them and the road. So let me know if there's any homes you're considering, or just in general if you're considering this area, and I can show you specific videos I've already shot, or go out and shoot a video, and so you can get an idea of what the noise is like from that property. And again, put the drone in the air so you can get a real good feel of what the traffic is like in relation to that property. Some other things I like, again, just going back to some of those pros, is that access to Pastoris Reservoir. Love that area. It's really nice because it's super quiet. When I was out there filming this video, there was nobody out there. I think I saw 2 people walk by me, and there's kind of a nice little road / trail that kind of goes around most of it. It doesn't go completely around it. So again, kind of a negative, because you see a lot of other areas like Boulder, Colorado, Flagstaff, where they've got really nice trails around their lakes. So you don't quite have that here. Lake Nighthorse you do, but a little bit of a tangent. So just want to mention, I really love that you've got that lake here. And then again, several different subdivisions and just homes in general that are on water. Guys, again, I love shooting these videos, but I even love more helping you guys with your real estate needs. If you're even thinking about moving out here, moving to just this general area or even New Mexico, give me a call or shoot me an email. Love to connect, discuss what you're looking for, discuss your criteria. I will personally be responding to your email or call. And I'm also happy to hop on a call with you, a Zoom call with you, and go over kind of a map tour and show you the area in more detail, kind of tailored to what you're looking for. I'll see you guys.